What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here from Rump Your Bets, talking little college football. Saturday, November the 6th. I think it's the 6th. Yeah. Um, Interesting morning for your boy. As you can see, I'm in a sweater. Was in the gym earlier this morning. Um, and no, haven't showered yet from the gym. So, suck on that, libtards, or you germaphobes. Um, So yeah, interesting morning for me. I ended up getting a screw in my tire on my way home from the gym. Um, so I needed to ended up dropping it off to get patched. My wife is at a shower, so I actually had to like walk home. Yeah, I mean, such a sad scene for your boy. Such a sad scene. So I'm running a little late for this, to be honest. But I did all my research earlier anyway, so most of the research was done yesterday, to be honest. Um, but I do want to talk before I go into the picks, and I'll have 3 picks for you guys like usual. But before I go into them, I want to talk on the sports betting championship from DraftKings. So I had gone back and forth, ping ponged, if you will, on entering it all week. And I still could enter it because you can enter it up until 6 o'clock tonight, to be honest, Eastern. And I may, like, if I get decent word that overlay is still pretty good at that point, or they didn't fill it at that point. I know that the tournament had some issues yesterday with folks that were limited. I don't know how DraftKings is going to handle that, but it's an interesting wrinkle in it. I mean, it's like the second time that DraftKings has officially ran this, because they ran it 2 years ago where I entered, or before COVID, but that didn't actually get to run because of COVID. This time they ran it, and they had similar issues to what they had the first time. First time there was a big conspiracy around how bets weren't paid out in a proper manner, and it impacted who won. So here's some concerns that I have with the betting competition. Fret not, fret not. We're back. We're back. See, it's been one of those mornings for me now. My internet's spotty. It's like you almost feel like you can't win sometimes, right? Anyway, so I assume you guys are able to watch. Can somebody comment to make sure that I'm back live again? Because it's hard to tell from this. So anyway, yes, this morning I also did get a haircut. As you can see, it's been a busy morning for your boy. Quite a busy morning. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, DraftKings National Championship. Yeah. So I went back and forth about entering it, and some of my pain points with it. So first of all, I want to be clear: if you did enter it, great, congrats. Wish you the best of luck. But I think it's an all or nothing type of an event. You can't. And to me, the issue is like they call it a sports betting national championship, but in reality, what is it, right? In reality, it's a 2.5 day high variance, volatile tournament of betting sports. Like that's not a championship. Like a championship is like a 30 to 60 day span of time where you can bet, 2 to 3 games a day. This is like a get an 18 parlay right, and you're the sports betting national champion. So here's my other issue. So you're allowed to bet player props. Okay. And, not naive enough to know that there will be a lot of people loading up on NBA player props, NFL player props. And look, as you guys know, I don't really fuck with player props. So I already am at a disadvantage to folks that are going to load up on the player prop market, for one thing. And I know it sounds silly, like, believe it or not, and yes, I gamble and we all gamble. I don't just throw away 10 grand. Like look, I won 10 grand in DFS on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was in the showdown for baseball. I just don't throw away 10 grand for nothing. Like I feel like, but with that said, I'll give you what my strategy would have been. Okay. One of these first games I'm going to give out, I would have went all in on that game. All in. So I would have just thrown my entire bankroll on that game. Because for me, if it lost, it is what it is. Like I would have lost anyway, whatever. But if it wins, now I have a little more options. So then ultimately, well, I'll walk you through in my opinion, the right strategy. You take Friday off entirely. So you would enter on Friday, you take the slate off entirely. You had other people, you kind of see where you're at on Saturday. Assuming nobody when you wake up on Saturday, assuming nobody's blown through or blown up in a crazy amount, you just kind of stick to your original game plan. The original game plan is you just kind of load up on bets throughout the day, but you keep volume limited. Okay, you don't go chasing, but at the same time you give yourself some flavor of a backdoor out. But regardless, you need to hit your first game. Okay, no matter what that game is, you have to hit it because you have to nearly double up. Okay, because in reality, I think it was like 100 grand ish won it the first year or the first time DraftKings did it. It's very likely it's going to take more money than that to win it this go around, because I think you're just going to have people that play a little more recklessly. And think about it: if you have enough people that are playing recklessly with parlays, somebody's going to be right? Somebody's going to get it right. And when you add in the fact that people can parlay player props, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking the money here is going to be probably in the 150, 200,000 area. The winner may even be higher. It really depends, though, right? Because if multiple people are in that 200K area, then it's going to make them two at the top be more. They're going to try to go to win it all, right? So they're going to do. That's why the money at the end is really it varies based on how many people are actually at the top. If it's only one person that's super high, there's no need to take any crazy risks, right? With that said, I think that the proper strategy for something like this, with the way it's built, is first of all, if you consider yourself above average at betting player props, you should have entered this without a doubt, because you're going to have a lot of people like myself that would have entered, that would have been betting a bunch of college spreads and NFL spreads, which is a sharper market, right? So I think if you were very good at player props, you should have definitely entered, because it's a huge advantage for people that are good at props. So back to the strategy. So you would have to load up on your first game, in my opinion. Now, maybe instead you could bet like 4,400 to win $4 grand, because you have $5 grand to play with, right? So maybe you would bet 4,400 to win $4 grand, which leaves you 600 in the event the bet loses. And then you could take that 600 and bet like a 3 or 4 team parlay to get yourself back to square one. It just gives you a backdoor option. But like I said, what I would have done, $5 grand, same game, which would have ended up being this Minnesota under. That I'm about to tell you why I like that. So and then of course, if you lose, you're out. It doesn't matter. But if you win, now you have 9,400 to play with. So then the next thing you do, what I would do, is 2 games at 330. I would parlay them together for 2,500. And then I would bet the remaining half of the roll on each game singly. So 9,400, 2,400 two-teamer on the 2 games I like at 330 in college. And then I would take so at that point, it would be $7 grand left. I'd go 3,500 on each side individually, because then if you just go 1-1, you weren't crushed, right? You still have, if you went 1-1, you still have about 6,700, 6,800 after. And if you go 2-0, now you're looking at your roll being almost 19,000, 18,000. So it's basically you go 3-0. And you've turned $5 grand into about 18 or 19,000. Then from there, you take one 7 o'clock game. Again, how I would do it. One 7 o'clock game, 15 grand on the game you like at 7. Okay. If that bet, so at that point you'd have 19. If you have that hit, you would be up to about 36,000 ish, maybe 35,000. So at that point, you've made basically 4 or 5 correlated wagers, and you would only be 4-0. But you would have multiplied your bankroll by 7 at that point. So at that point, you'd be looking at about 10 o'clock at night, 10:30-ish. You have a few different options. You could look at the board, see where you're at, see where your standings are. And you could either just go into Sunday. You could do something silly where you bet, another 10 or 15 grand on another game. I think that you're well ahead of the pack if you have like 25K going into Sunday, because then you have a lot of options. You could do some big parlays. You could do a bunch of different things. David, I'm just talking about the sports betting championship and strategies for folks that entered it. Like I said, I could still enter it. And if I get some word on the leaderboard, I still might, because I wouldn't mind pushing chips in on Sundays. I mean, on an NFL Sunday, especially since NFL's been good for me. But again, that's a strategy that I think, based on the rules, I think it's a strategy you have to kind of take. And more or less, it's I think people that are good at player props, which I am not. So I think people who are good at player props have a tremendous edge over the field in that championship. And again, that is not I mean, they call it that, but that is not a sports betting championship. Like it's just a high volatile sports betting 2 days, to be honest. But with that said, I think that your strategy needs to be all or nothing. You can't just like kind of middle around and I'm gonna, just try to stay afloat. And no, it's all or nothing. So again, I wasn't a big fan of the way that the rules were set up and how it goes. But with that said, I just want to talk about that through with you guys for a bit. If you're entering it, look, best of luck. Wish you best of luck with all of it. Look, may the best man win, right? Or woman win. But still, it's still nice that a spot like DraftKings hosts a tournament like that. I just wish the rules were a little different. But with that said, let's dive in, right? So I talked about the first play being Minnesota under. Yeah, so current line on this game, let me see. I actually might not have gotten the best number here. I got 44 under, but I thought I saw some 44 and a halves. Did I? Oh, maybe not. Okay, so 44 under. I'm seeing minus 105, I believe. I'm seeing a bunch of different prices, but I'm seeing minus 105 right now. This game for me comes down to where is points going to come from? So under 44 minus 105. So what is that? Minnesota versus Illinois under 44 minus 105. That's at DK. So my big thing here is, of course, where is points going to come from? So both these teams crawl. Okay, Illinois has ran more plays per game than Minnesota, but that's only because they've played some better competition and they've also been trailing in a lot of games where they've had to speed themselves up. Minnesota's been in a little different kind of class. With that said, Minnesota does not deserve to be the 20th ranked team in the country. This team has gone on a 4-game winning streak where they've beaten Maryland, Nebraska, Purdue, Northwestern. Now, sure, Purdue's not like terrible, but they're nothing great. Nebraska's having another blah year. Northwestern's absolutely abysmal. And Maryland has been really showing their true colors this year after a somewhat decent start. Who is this team actually beaten? I thought they played Ohio State good week 1. Outside of that, I don't even know at what point the video stopped. And I'm clearly having internet issues here, so I apologize. So I don't know where I was with the breaking down the game because I don't know where it stopped. But my big thing with the Minnesota-Illinois game is you have two quarterbacks who have both regressed severely from last year to this year. And then you also add in the fact that both teams run the ball a ton. Both teams take the play clock down. Both teams play very similar styles, smash mouth football. If you will, this could be your quote unquote rock fight. Now, my big issue, though, is both these teams are abysmal converting third and longs. Both these teams have better defenses than offense. Both these teams also have no issue sitting on the ball with a lead. You look at this from multiple angles, and Minnesota, Illinois under 44 is just a really good spot. I think that, to me, I'd argue, this number should be 41 and a half, 42, some of those key numbers with 6 touchdowns, sorry. And I think we're getting a little advantage edge here on the number of 44. Two teams that lack explosive plays. I just think if this game plays in the trenches as it should, a lot of third and longs, a lot of safe conservative football. Also, I'm not in love with the fact that Minnesota being double-digit favorite against anybody. I know Illinois has been abysmal, though. They really can't seem to find ways into the end zone. Hopefully we get the same thing. Now, Adam brings up a good point, rock fight last night. Now, Adam, that game yesterday, to me, was all around that Virginia Tech quarterback going down. So Burmeister, I believe that's how it's pronounced, him getting hurt was pretty critical to the line in general because it basically changed Boston College's game plan to severely conservative, right? Because Boston College didn't have to score points because Virginia Tech's offense was terrible. The Kadam, the quarterback that came in, he absolutely can't throw the ball for shit. So him coming in, Trey Turner getting ruled out, big detriments, and I know you look at the score, you might be like, oh, well, this over never stood a chance. I mean, yeah, well, it never stood a chance because one team game plan had to change entirely with the new quarterback who can't throw. And because of that, Boston College was like, hey, we'll just play conservative football and get our win here. We'll just run the football a few times, not put any pressure on our quarterback, on a returning quarterback that came back from an injury. So it's annoying, an injury like that, but it is what it is. It happens. I do think the game plays out completely differently, though, if Burmeister plays, because at least he can move the ball downfield. The other dude was terrible. 3 passing yards in the first half. So, okay, so let's move on to the next game because I don't know how long my internet's going to cave out on me here. Charlotte versus Rice. This is a line that makes no sense to me. Charlotte should be 10 plus here in this spot. They get their quarterback back, Chris Reynolds. And what I know about Charlotte, and I bet them a few games this year, is first of all, they're much better at home. Okay. They're much more efficient offense at home. Reynolds plays better at home. And I look at a team in Rice that's going to likely start their backup quarterback who did last week, who it was a bit smoke and mirrors, right? Because North Texas defense sucks. Now, Charlotte's defense isn't good either, but they're at least a little better than North Texas. And I look at a team in Rice that's going to struggle to score points like they did against North Texas. Whereas Charlotte's offense, this offense can really hum. They play fast. They can catch defenses off guard. Reynolds has proven he can be an accurate passer, and him coming back makes a huge difference to this line. Like, I truly believe Charlotte would have been about a 4 or 5 point favorite without him. And with him, I don't know how this line is only like 6.5. It doesn't make any sense. Charlotte is so much better than Rice. Rice is I liked Rice in the spot against North Texas to help out with points or to get them to score points. But let's be honest, Rice's quarterback got hurt in that game. So, like the first drive. So, yes, it impacted their offense, and I think it's going to impact their offense here as well. So I like I like the idea that with Reynolds back, this offense should be able to run the football, get a lot of third and shorts. And he's had a great year, to be honest. I thought he's really stepped up his game from last year or last season. And him coming back makes a big deal to me. So I like that play. I think right now you might be able to get 6 on Charlotte. No, it's still 6.5. So Charlotte 6.5 would be my second play. 10 verse is Rice. That's at DK. Okay. So last but not least, the last game I'll do for this video. For me, it's right back to the UNLV well. I know UNLV embarrassed us in the Nevada game. I mean, kind of anyway, at least with the first half. They are still, of course, 0-8. But wow, do they draw a refreshing matchup here against New Mexico. First of all, UNLV has been an offense that I've liked watching. Okay, I know that they kind of struggled in the first half of that UNLV game. I also didn't expect their quarterback to play in that game, and he did. Frio. Maybe he might start again. That's fine. I'm not really so much worried about it. New Mexico's as a team, though, is probably the worst 3-5 team in D1. I mean, they beat Houston Baptist. They beat a terrible New Mexico State team. And last week, out of nowhere, they kind of upset Wyoming, which was just such a weird game for them. I think that they kind of come back to earth here. And UNLV is hungry for a win. I mean, Arroyo is trying to prove that he can coach in this league. And I do like what I've seen from his offense. I know that they burned us early in that last bet on last Friday night. To me, it was just a head-scratching game. I think that here, though, they should be favored. I mean, they're an underdog here on the road, primarily because they're 0-8. If they won one of these close games, they would not be an underdog here. I know it's tough to bet an 0-8 team to win their first game. I just think they're so much better than New Mexico. I mean, New Mexico has been blown out by any team that's relevantly decent. The win at Wyoming to me was complete smoke and mirrors. This Wyoming team is not what we're used to seeing from them. And they looked like a train wreck in that game. So look, I'll give credit to Mexico for the win, but I do think this is a good correction spot. I think this is a good spot for UNLV, whose offense I've liked. At least UNLV can move the ball. Mexico is one of the worst offenses. They're one of the worst offenses in the country. So I think, at least I know UNLV can move the football. I think that they've had some struggles. I do like the fact that they showed some life in that second half versus Nevada, but ultimately, I like them to be able to move the football, running it. Look, they're going to probably lean heavily on Charles Williams here as needed. And I don't like New Mexico. Like I said, I think New Mexico should be a big underdog in every one of their games from here on out. The fact that they're favored here is almost a borderline joke to me. I just get one team that's hungrier, a team that's looked more competitive against better teams. UNLV's had a tougher strength of schedule. UNLV has been more competitive in games. UNLV has covered more games. UNLV has at least shown life on offense. Whereas New Mexico, they beat a non-D1 team. They beat the worst team in college football, or one of the worst teams in college football, in New Mexico State. Who, mind you, New Mexico State's lone win was against a non-D1 team. So I look at this from the angles of, yes, tough bet to make with UNLV, but I think they get their first win here today. So UNLV plus 105 money line. First New Mexico, wrong team's favorite. New Mexico. Okay, now before my internet craps out on me again, I will be happy to take some questions for you guys on some games. Feel free to ask some questions, and I will happily give you my take on the games. I think somebody asked about a game before. What am I? Oh, David, what am I betting 15K on? I can't. Okay, so I could have sworn somebody asked a question on a game. Oh, Northwestern plus the points. Now, woof. So I mentioned last week, right? Iowa versus Wisconsin. I mentioned how overrated Iowa is. That kind of showed. With that said, Northwestern is abysmal. So when you talk about wanting to bet a team only plus 10 or 11, I think it might be 12 now, they're an abysmal squad. So it's an avoid spot for me. Yes, I was overrated, but also, yes, Northwestern's terrible. It's just a stay away spot for me. God bless if you want to lay 12 with an overrated Iowa team, or God bless if you want to take 12 with one of the worst teams Northwestern's had in recent memory. So stay away spot for me. Wish you best of luck on however you bet it. Okay, what else do we have here? What do we got? Arizona State, USC. For me, is a lean in favor of USC. This has more to do with, for me. I like USC. I like what they do on offense. I like the quarterback, and I love Drake London. Arizona State is going to try to slow this game down. I just don't know to what extent. And I know Arizona State can beat up on bad teams. I just don't think USC is that bad. And I know, look, as far as like, I just think 10's a big number. If you can get 10, that's a key number, and it's a big number. I like when I'm getting 10 with USC, because I think they're a team that always battles back. They're a team that can move the sticks through the air without issue. And I don't think Arizona State's going to completely shut down London by any means. So yeah, call it a small lean on grabbing the 10 with the dog. Western Virginia plus 3.5. I liked what I saw from West Virginia last week. I thought it was a pretty well played game, to be honest. Now they turn around though and get Oklahoma State. They're grabbing the hook 3.5. Believe it or not, I actually lean Oklahoma State here as a small favorite. I think Oklahoma State's just so much better than West Virginia. I know West Virginia played well last week, and sure, it's a good win for them. They won, right? I think they upset last week, right? Did they end up winning? I know they were leading. Yeah, they did end up beating Iowa State. So I just think this is your typical, I don't want to call it a lay down spot for them, but you get back-to-back tough opponents. Yes, be it at home, and it's tough to go in West Virginia and win. I just think Oklahoma State's an actual decent team. So Iowa State I wasn't a big fan of, but I am a big fan of Oklahoma State. And if you think about it, last week, right, Iowa State is a 7, right? And they're a worse team than Oklahoma State, right? So now you turn around, you get Oklahoma State at half the number. For me, it's got to be Oklahoma State or pass. So Liberty Ole Miss, Adam, is a real interesting game. I didn't want to bet it. So you have a bunch of narratives, right? You get Hugh Freeze going back to Ole Miss. And you get a Liberty offense that's really trying to cement itself as a team that can hang around with Power 5 schools. Liberty, the interesting thing with Liberty is they are very content to speed games up against teams that want to speed the game up. They're against teams that want to slow the game down. Against teams that speed the game up, I've seen Liberty really try to slow games down, actually. And I think they might try to do it here. That's what pushes me off the over. Now, Liberty typically is a 4-touchdown machine, and another team total is about 4 touchdowns, maybe 28.5-ish. So you could argue there's some value there in Liberty's team total over. It really goes back to what you think, right? Because Ole Miss is obviously an offensive machine, and you would figure that they would be able to move the ball up and downfield against a non-Power 5 squad in Liberty. But my big issue here is will Liberty's defense be able to slow Ole Miss down? Because I think that's the question you're answering, because I do believe Liberty gets at least 3 touchdowns here. For some obvious reasons, right? They have a good quarterback. They move the sticks very well. They have a good play caller in Freeze. And I think that Willis, right? Their quarterback? Last name? Willis. I know he's a really good dual threat quarterback. And I think that they'll get tested here against a Power 5 squad in Ole Miss, but Ole Miss's defense is putrid. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Liberty was able to get in the box quite a few times today. I mean, like more than 3. And look, if they get in the box more than 3, then you are in good shape for this potential to go over their team total. I just think like Ole Miss has been kind of lucky, and I mentioned this before on defense, and they kind of got exposed against Auburn. But they've been a bit fortunate on the defensive side of the ball. But with that said, this is by far the best team Liberty's seen this year. So, will they be able to hold their poise and be in a hostile environment like this? Probably be the most hostile environment they've played in all year as well. So yeah, it's a stay away spot for me. I do think Willis, you're basically going on the fact that Willis will be able to move the ball without issue against Ole Miss. And I think it could happen. It's a spot I want to stay away from. Total is very high for a game where I've seen Liberty play fast-paced teams, and they are content to actually slow the game down. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be a stay away spot for me. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. I really like Western Kentucky's offense, and shout out to Mike White from the Jets. It's a shame that he got hurt in that game. He went to Western Kentucky, for those that didn't know. And look, Western Kentucky's usually got offense that sling the ball around, and they've been able to sling the ball around this year a bit. Nothing egregious. Middle Tennessee, the thing with them is they're going to speed this game up. Now, this total's gone down to 66.5. I mean, I would argue there is some decent value on that over. This has come down. You get 2 teams that like to play fast. Middle Tennessee plays fast. The issue with them is their offense has been Jekyll and Hyde throughout this season, which has been the case for them in most seasons, to be honest. But Western Kentucky's defense isn't anything excellent. They're okay. Western Kentucky really wants to move the football downfield and throw the ball. And they play pretty quick. Both these teams play pretty quick. So I would call it a slight lean over at 66. As far as laying 17, I'm never really a fan of laying 17. The only time I'll lay 17.5 is if I truly believe a team should be like a 3.5 touchdown favorite, where I can get like what I feel is 6 points of edge, because it's just so many weird things can happen when you're laying that many points. Now, as for Middle Tennessee to take them as a dog, I don't mind it. It just, with their defense and the way Western Kentucky moves the football, it is hard to believe Western Kentucky won't be able to chuck like a 35 or 40 spot today. Probably very likely 40 plus, to be honest. And the question you have to answer is, will Middle Tennessee be able to score points today? And they very well could. They're going to play fast. Western Kentucky will go pace for pace with them. I just think if you're going to bet Middle Tennessee plus the points, I think you're better off, believe it or not, betting Middle Tennessee over their team total, because I think Western Kentucky likely gets to theirs today, especially at this new full game over. So I hope that helps, Sakritar. So Memphis plus 4 was a game I dug into. They draw SMU here. I wanted to bet Memphis so bad, but I had so many things taking me away from it. SMU's offense is so good. And Memphis has some QB issues, right? Is Memphis' quarterback going to play today? So that was a deterrent for me. I haven't heard news on whether he's going to play or not. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But what I do know is SMU is going to score points today. So the question becomes, well, can Memphis keep pace? And they may be able to. Look, SMU last week lost a tough game. But let's be honest, like, it was a game I bet. So I bet Houston in that game. And I thought SMU showed pretty good grit. I mean, they went down 17-0 and I think took the lead before halftime, which was pretty crazy. So I would look into that, Mo, because if the Memphis quarterback isn't playing, to me, it's got to be an off spot. If he does play, it makes their offense more live, which to me makes the over a little more live. It is very difficult. I know it's 4. I think, actually, believe it or not, I think it was 3.5 a few days ago. It doesn't surprise me that late SMU money's coming in, though, because SMU always gets bet. I just look at one offense that's very consistent and one offense that's not. Now, Memphis's defense is a little better than SMU's because SMU has one of the worst defenses in D1. But it's not saying much on the Memphis side. I just know SMU can score against anybody, and I have concerns that Memphis can keep pace. That's what kept me away from it. I wanted to bet Memphis as a home dog here, but enough deterred me off it. I do think SMU is overrated, and I said that last week. But this isn't a spot I want to jump on SMU. I jumped against SMU when I wanted to with Houston. I don't necessarily want to jump in this spot with Memphis. So I hope that makes sense. Houston at South Florida. So I bet Houston last week. I think this team is very good. I do think that now, though, this is a terrible spot for this Cougar squad. I think you have arguably your biggest win of the season. And now you go and play in a below average opponent. And it has me wondering how much this team can want to get up for such a game. And on the Houston side of things, but to Houston's credit, if they win out in games that they will likely be favored in the rest of the season, like this one, they have every opportunity in the world to play Cincinnati in the championship game. So, yeah, Houston's definitely not going to be not motivated, so I'm not worried about that. And then but I just hate Dana Holgorsen. Like, I just think he's such a bad head coach. I took him last week, and I saw this team blow a 17-point lead, which has been par for the course with Holgorsen, right? So, I don't know. I can't lay 14 on the road with Houston. So, it would be South Florida or pass for me. But South Florida is such a tough team to back. Their offense is tough to watch. The games they've won have been against Temple, who's terrible, and a non-D1 squad. And then they've been competitive in very few games this year. So ultimately, long story short, it's South Florida pass for me. I think if you're betting Houston, you are buying into a team at their highest price, and that's just not the way to bet sports. So, yeah. So Michigan State and Purdue. I mentioned last week that I really liked Michigan State getting points against Michigan. I felt like their team total over was a good spot because this offense is really good. When you talk about this game, though, this has some hangover potential to it, right? Purdue's a hungry team. If you're Michigan State here, you're just trying to build off your last recent win, and I think that they very well could. And I like what I've seen from this offense. I think, believe it or not, I know this might sound silly, I think this is one of the best defense offenses in the Big Ten, and I think I'd be interested, and I know they're undefeated, so it's like there's that angle to it as well, in terms of them being maybe overrated in the marketplace. But I think there's still people that don't trust this team or don't believe in this team. I think this team passes the eye test for me on very many accounts. I want to bet Purdue in this spot, but I can't because I do think Michigan State is better than people think, despite being 8-0. I don't think people trust this team. And what I know about Michigan State is they score points. They might not be great on defense, and Purdue might be able to take advantage of that. So maybe that plays into the over here potentially being live. I liked Michigan State's team total over because I felt like Michigan was going to get their points. I don't feel as confident in Purdue getting their points today. So it's why I laid off the game. But yeah, even at 2.5, call it a lean in Michigan State's favor, just because I don't think this team's overrated. I really don't. I know they're 8-0, but I just don't think people believe in this team yet. So, and look, this team has all the motivation in the world to win. Yeah, I'd call it a small lean in favor of Michigan State. Did I get every game? I think I covered everyone people asked for. I'm glad the internet held up as well. So we got the 3 bets. I typed them in as well, right? All 3. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. So got the 3 bets in there. Scroll through the chat if you missed them. I wish you guys all the best of luck today with all your bets, all your action. And look, as always, folks, gamble responsibly. I'll be back tomorrow. Run Pure talking a little NFL with JSU and Holden. So be sure to check in on that. Other than that, folks, again, gamble responsibly, stay safe. I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning talking NFL. But until then, later, bitches.